Well, we had a great time this year working with Princess Margaret Foundation on the show home for 2013. The team had a great time because we were able to try new things and experiment, and it was really, you'll see the outcome. It was a great time. The house is a traditional house from the outside, so we have elements of traditional details mixed with modern elements. The outside of the house is so perfect for the environment. It's in Oakville, Ontario, and it's really almost like a Hampton shingle style house. It's got beautiful shingles and copper and painted paneling, and it really fits into what is a very established neighborhood. When we designed the foyer, I really wanted the outside to come in. So what you'll notice are the stone walls. Now we took the flooring that is limestone and basically took an acid wash to it and applied it to the walls. It gives you the feeling almost of a courtyard. And then instead of traditional casing, we did black lacquered archways, and that gives a lot of drama to the entrances to the living room and library. Now the library to the left of the entrance is not your traditional library, so we didn't do wood paneling and bookcases, but we did do panel details, and we painted this great charcoal gray. It gives you that cozy feeling of a library without it being too traditional. Now instead of a sofa or a desk, we put 4 club chairs around a round table, and that is really great for entertaining or reading a book sitting in front of the fireplace. One of the elements I always love are 2-story spaces, so we removed the bedroom above and put a railing all the way around. Instead of bookcases upstairs, we did a wall covering that looks like books, so it creates a really dramatic effect to this room. One of the interesting things about the room is we don't have a lot of walls for art, but I love art. So one of the things we use are these brass easels, and they sit in front of French doors that go out onto the terrace. Not only do they hold art, but they actually have light built into them. So they're a great solution if you don't have a lot of wall space or you don't have lighting in the ceiling. Now across the foyer from the library is exactly the opposite. We have a very light room. So we have the dark room in the library, and across is a light room, maybe a little more feminine, a little more dreamy. We still have our grays, but a much lighter gray, almost like a pearl gray. It's not a big space, but by doing this color palette, it really gives a sense of spaciousness. Now when we're working with a neutral scheme, we still want color. So we typically do that through art, but pillows and accessories, and you'll see that the pillows in the room are really luxurious fabrics, satins and silks with beautiful embroidery, and that really adds a pop. When you look from the living room to the back of the house, you see this grand hallway. We wanted this beautiful vista to the back of the house. We continued the stone floor from the foyer in there to define it from the dining room. Now the dining room really opens up to that space. When you're in the dining room and looking towards that foyer, you see this really fantastic piece of art. We actually took a photograph of an interior of Versailles and had it blown up. I think it's almost 8 or 9 feet. And that gives that wow factor to the space. It almost feels like there's a window into another area. Now when I chose to do a piece of art this big, I still wanted something below it to give some dimension. So I designed this very long bench with the cushion, and you'll notice we did a decorative trim to hold the cushion in place. Now to give you some height on either side, I did lacquered pedestals with outdoor lanterns. It adds a really dramatic effect in the evening. The furniture in the dining room is more Art Deco, more 1930s and 40s, but we didn't want completely modern walls, so we took our panel detail again that we have in our living room and library. It's just rails and trim. It doesn't have a lot of moldings in it, so it's a transitional type of paneling. Instead of a traditional chandelier in the dining room, we chose a much more modern fixture with square crystals and shades. Again, the crystal is brought into the lamps on either side of the mirror on the buffet. Now the mirror is great because anybody sitting at the dining room facing the wall has a reflection of that beautiful piece of art. Now between the dining room and the kitchen, we have a little servery. The real wow factor and the real surprise is that actually the floor is glass, and the floor looks into the wine cellar below. So it's those special spaces and those moments that make the house wonderful. The kitchen, breakfast room, and family room are along the back of the house. In the kitchen, I did an island in a different material than the perimeter. So the island is a dark marble and it's painted dark. Instead of solid uppers, I used glass uppers because it really opens up the space and lightens it. Instead of the traditional stainless steel hood, we did a back painted glass hood in the gray. And that again adds that modern element. And then facing the garden, instead of a small window with uppers on either side, we decided to really open up the back of the house and do this very dramatic window. So you really feel like you're in the garden when you're working in the kitchen. Opposite the kitchen on the other side of the breakfast room is the family room, and that has a little more of a modern feel to it. We have a traditional mantle in limestone. It's more like a deco mantle, and bookcases on either side. We painted the bookcases out so they blend into the architecture of the space. But what I really love is how we translated a television into an art wall. We mounted the TV on the wall, and I did rails across the wall and just lean black and white photography. So it's not just a TV on the wall, it's this animated, wonderful space. On either side of the fireplace, there's two doors. One is a mudroom, the other is a computer room. We created this alcove that has a desk for a computer and a great wall of a pinboard to put invitations and notices and inspirational pictures. We have a great mudroom off the side of the house, and that opens from the side and the garage. And we designed this beautiful built-in of millwork. So you have your closets, and you have an integrated bench, and then open spaces for baskets or boxes to put gloves and things like that. It's not a dark space, it's actually a wonderful space to enter. The foyer stone comes all the way down the hall into the breakfast room and almost extends out the house. Instead of a window, I opened up the whole back wall and did a plate glass window. So when you're sitting in the breakfast area, you almost feel like you're outside. And to keep that theme, the table is a stone table. It almost looks like it was in the garden. My really favorite area, and the area that gets so much reaction, is when you come around the corner or you're looking from the living room and you look down this grand hall past this beautiful piece of art over this table out into the garden. It's this wow moment that I think people aren't sure whether there actually is a window there or it's open to the outside. You don't see that very much, where the glass goes from the floor to the ceiling and wall to wall. So that's one of those special moments that I love watching people's reaction when they come into the space.